Several minutes of commercial-free football starts now.
Here are the Purple Mortgage Guys.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Purple Mortgage Guys. Coming to you on a Monday night, late Monday night. Thought we'd jump on, do a quick recap of the Eagles game, but then talk about the Risner signing and how we feel about the squad after an 0-2 rough little start, but we're 2 weeks into a 17-game season. So we thought we'd just kind of reassess where we think we're at and how we feel going forward. So Tanner, Goose, I'll start with you. Eagles game didn't really play out like we had hoped. I know you were probably the most optimistic going into that game, or maybe we're just sick of the negativity. So you had it pegged for a squeak out win. Didn't quite happen. What are your thoughts, Eagles game, and then looking forward here with the signing of Risner? What do you got for us tonight?
Yeah, there's a moment through all the frustration of the turnovers where I looked, and if the defense got the stop, we were down a possession, and then I realized the score at the time was 27-20 Vikings, and my score prediction was 28-27 Vikings win, and I was like, "Come on, defense! I need a stop," and then maybe KOC has the balls to go for two. Or maybe it was 21-27. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like I was about as optimistic as I could be after an 0-2 start and a pretty sloppy football game and a loss, just because it really felt like we beat the Eagles and we just couldn't beat ourselves. So yeah, I think overall Kirk showed a lot. Kirk, I think, looked really good. Play calling on defense was frustrating, but KOC even acknowledged it. You have so many things to defend against the Eagles, and someone asked him about the small front, and he's like, "Yeah, well, we kind of have to do that for Jalen Hurts and their pass attack," and they exploited the weakness in defending that. So we've seen the quarterbacks run all over us. We try to defend that, and they're just too well-rounded to really pick your poison.
Tanner, your thoughts? Eagles game, I know you thought it predicted anyway, it could be a blowout. Didn't quite end up that way. It felt like a blowout for a lot of the second half, but your thoughts on that game, and then just looking forward, how do you feel about the 0-2 Vikings going into a game Sunday against the Rams, which feels like kind of a must-win, but it's super important nonetheless. So what do you got for us tonight?
Yeah, the game went how I about thought it would. Some pretty alarming things with the insane amount of turnovers in the first two games of the year. Obviously, pass protection with Kirk going forward is pretty scary, but the Risner signing will hopefully maybe take care of some of that, but that's another topic we can talk about here in a little bit. And then our run defense is also super alarming as well. But we also had some pros. I shouldn't focus on all the negativity. Offense looked pretty good, but there's no run game going forward, and that is also very concerning. So our young guys look good. Ivan Pace looked good. Jordan Addison looked good. So there's a lot to build on, and I still think the Eagles are going to be one of the better teams in the NFC this year. So for the Vikings to go into Philly and play them tough, I think is a positive thing to look at here going forward. As for the NFC North in general, it looks like it's going to be one of the weaker squads in the NFC this year. So that's a plus for us. I know a lot of Vikings fans are probably thinking heading into Sunday that our season was over already. Sitting here 0-2, one of four teams left in the NFC that haven't won a game yet this year. But every team in the NFC North lost this week. So that's a plus for us. You win your divisional games this year, and I think we have a real strong shot to play everybody tough. Detroit, Green Bay, Chicago. I don't think there's a clear-cut favorite here in the North right now, so it just depends on who wants it the most. And if you can show up for those games and play well, I think you're going to give yourself a good shot to take the North again and continue playing in the big dance in January.
Yeah, you mentioned the feeling a little bit better about the game afterwards, and It feels like, 0-2, but you guys remember the feeling after the game in Philadelphia last year. It felt like a complete blowout. Nothing went right. This game felt like just a bunch more turnovers, which obviously you can't have happen going forward, but that's a little bit more fluky. Like it felt like we moved the ball a lot, and just frustrating that things didn't work out when you get into the red zone and then turning the ball over at inopportune times. But I don't know about you guys. I feel actually better about the Vikings at 0-2 this year than I did about them 1-1 last year. And just knowing what Tanner mentioned, NFC North feels like it's going to be wide open. And then watching the games this last weekend, nobody was smooth sailing at all. Other than maybe the Cowboys, I guess, would be the only team that comes to mind. But everybody else was tight. So I think it's wide open. Optimistic about if they can clean up a few more things on the offensive line. Like Tanner had mentioned, I don't know where the run game is going to come from. And now how are you going to stop opposing teams from just running it up the middle? Probably need another free agent signing of some sort, or maybe a trade. But there's still a lot of things to be optimistic about. So I guess I probably fall in that optimistic camp. Definitely don't want to tank and start talking draft picks, but we do need a win. Probably need to win the next two and feel pretty good again. You drop Sunday's game and it's going to be a deep hole. So I don't know. Level of optimism, 1 to 10. 10 being Super Bowl aspirations, 1 being let's just tank now, don't win a game. Tanner, where are you at? 1 to 10.
Probably like a 6. I would say I'm slightly above the average fan, maybe. I think a lot of people, I mean, we come from a pretty pessimistic fan base, and I feel like I'm pretty pessimistic myself when it comes to the Vikings. But, I mean, we're 2 games in the season. The NFL is a super long season, and I don't think there's any reason to throw in the towel already. And we have a lot of really good veteran players. We just have to execute better and take care of the ball. It'd be a very different story. I think there's a good chance that we're actually 2-0 if we had just taken care of the ball first 2 games. So continue to do that going forward, and I think you're going to give yourself a shot to be in it every week.
Goose, level of optimism, 1 to 10. You are typically a more optimistic individual than the man in the middle of the screen. So what do you say?
Yeah. For that reason, I think I'm going to just go 1 above him. I would put myself at a 7. Yeah. And pretty similar reasons. I also try to remember that our defense kind of felt like the reason outside of the turnovers that we lost, because by the end of the game, our defense is the one that's kind of letting us down. And I think if we can fix the turnovers, that helps the defense tremendously from bad field position, quick drives where they're on the field all game. And then hopefully if Risner coming in, I know his strength is more being a better pass blocker than Ed Ingram, but I just hope if the line plays better overall, we can play a little bit more complementary football, run the ball a little bit more, and give the defense a break. Although the games felt pretty different, both games, Bucks and Eagles so far, I was like, wow, our defense looks 180. And they look dominant. They look really good. And by the second half, you're kind of like, man, we can't get off the field. And I think part of that is that they're just a lot of turnovers, a lot of quick possessions, and they're getting tired and worn down and maybe figured out a little bit. So I think if we can maybe put together some longer drives, keep them off the field, that will also help the defense out. So be kind of a double win there, and we can string together some winning streaks.
So Goose, you one up Tanner. You went from a 6 to a 7.
Yeah.
I'm going to one up you, Goose. I'm going to go with an 8.
I love it.
The reason for that is because I'm always way too optimistic to begin with. But I really think if you give Kirk just a little bit more protection and a little bit more time, I think he is less likely to dump down to the checkdowns in the 3rd and 4th quarter. I think there's a few more big plays in there. And I feel like our defense is a lot more unpredictable than in last year's scheme and squad. So I'm going to say I think the offense continues to move the ball. I don't think the turnovers happen like they have been. I don't think it's possible. And I think we turn it around here. So I'm going to go with an 8 on the optimism side.
Good.
Tanner, I need your deep dive here on this Risner signing. I know kind of the talk of today. Probably not going to fix all our problems, but Ed Ingram not exactly been playing well. Probably torpedoed a few games over the last couple of years. What do you expect from Risner? Why wasn't he signed yet 3 weeks into the season by any other team? Why was he not on the Broncos? And what do you know about him for the listeners out there?
Yeah, for anybody that is a big NFL draft advocate.
Your dog must be all in on this Risner deal.
Yeah, apparently. For anybody that follows the NFL draft pretty tightly, Dalton Risner was a fan favorite amongst Viking fans. Actually, I don't remember what year. I think it was 2019 was the year he was drafted. I think
Second rounder, right?
Yeah, second round. I think that some Vikings fans actually wanted him in the first round that year, if I recall correctly, over Bradbury. So people, I think, were pretty upset that we picked Bradbury over Risner. I think I liked Risner that at the time. I don't think I was a huge fan, and I'm not necessarily an advocate against him, and I'm not an advocate for him either. And I don't really know actually what to think of this signing. It is kind of alarming to me that he was still a free agent, just because offensive lineman is it's the one position where the good ones never get to free agency because they're so valuable to every single team. So why was he still available heading into the season? That seems odd to me. The other thing a lot of people maybe don't know is dating back to his college days and his high school days, he has never ever played a snap on the right side of the ball. He's been a left guard, left tackle his entire life. And I remember listening to a podcast once. If anybody remembers Jeremiah Sirles.
Sirles, yeah.
Mentioning once that, I mean, even myself, I've never played offensive line ever, but he said it's just a drastic difference. It's like trying to learn how to wipe your hand with your left butt if you're right hand dominant, playing left side and right side of the line. So that is not my quote. You guys can.
It is now. I didn't know you had a left and a right butt, so that's new to me.
Left and right hand. Did I say butt?
Left hand with your right butt.
No, it's late. It's been a long day. You played softball earlier.
Regardless, I think everybody knows what I meant. I don't know what their plan is for him. I guess I don't think that they necessarily think that he's going to come in and be the instant starter over somebody like Ed Ingram and Ezra Cleveland. Obviously.
Hold on. You don't think he's going to start Sunday? No. Okay, let's get this on record. Goose, is he going to start Sunday?
I think his long-term plan is to start. I would say I'm like 60 that he starts Sunday, 40 that he doesn't, but that's mainly more like ramp up into the system.
You would say by the Carolina game he's a starter.
Yeah. Okay. I still think he'll start by Sunday, but I would say there's a chance that maybe. I mean, if TJ Hawkinson can figure it out and be a huge part of the game plan, then I think Risner can.
Anyway, Tanner, you were deep in the middle of something there. What?
So you guys are both confident he's going to start this week in less than a week.
60,
if he
40.
starts, that's
confident. I would say that's above average.
I would say he will. I mean, we're going to look back at this. Yeah, he will.
Okay. Well, maybe you guys will prove me the fool. I don't see that happening, and I guess it feels almost like he is more of like a. I want him to. I want him to start because I think
depth with Udo going down.
But I don't see Kwesi bailing on his guy already this early.
Okay.
So I see it as more of like a Chris Reed replacement, like a depth swing guard coming in.
Here's the deal. I was gonna try to fit this in at some point. This seems like a good time. I don't think Ingram getting demoted here like ends Ed Ingram's career. He's young. He was a high pick.
You know what ends his career? Stepping on his quarterback's feet multiple times in a season and then causing fumbles. That's what ends his career.
Yeah. And O-line can be a position that takes a little while for you to figure it out. And so I think if he gets benched and Risner plays the rest of the year, I don't think that means that Ed's done as a Viking.
Okay. So Tanner, like the signing or not like it? Because we were getting mixed feedback, mixed signals from you earlier this afternoon.
I like it. I'm not like super excited like every other Vikings fan. Like I feel like you go on Twitter and everybody seems to think that he's like an instant savior and just going to solve all of our problems. And
I agree with that.
I think that he is an upgrade in pass protection, but I don't expect him to come in and like be the guy going into like next year right away.
Gotcha. Okay. Goose.
I think one thing I'm really excited about this, and it's hard because with the O-line play, I'm not sitting down and watching a ton of game film on a right guard who wasn't on the Vikings, but so I'm relying on seeing some cut-ups, which are highlights, and it's hard to go off of highlights when you just see the good in a player. But what I noticed in all of those highlights was one, he was pretty good at like passing off a stunt, which we've seen some struggles with. When some guy's looping, it seems like he's good to kind of give a punch to the guy that he's on and then pass it off and be ready for the next guy. I think Ed has really struggled with that. And then he also, like, it stuck out in Denver, and it's kind of a reason I'm a little surprised they let him go is, to me, on a lot of the plays that I watch, he stood out. Like, it almost looked like the whole line was like in mud and he was like looking for work. Like he would, out in the screen game, out in the run game, like he was at the second level flying down the field, and it just looked like he was like ready to hit someone. And I think one huge thing with the O-line is the play around you. And I think having Brian O'Neill right there, and then hopefully Bradbury in the near future. I haven't seen a lot of updates on where he's at. Back makes me nervous, but I think the Vikings O-line has slowly improved, and hopefully having a guy like O'Neill next to him, if he does in fact play at right guard, will help him out a lot. But football a lot of the time is skill certainly helps, but it seems like the guys who have a lot of effort out there goes a long way. So that's
right.
my upside.
Here's a question. You get a 2-word answer. Carolina, week 4. Is Risner the right guard, the left guard, or is he on bench? Tanner?
Bench.
On the bench. Goose?
Right guard.
I was going to go left guard. I was going to say that actually before. So, okay, we'll see how that plays out.
And Ezra's on the bench?
I think Ezra moves to right guard. I don't know.
I think there's a chance that one of the three is at center. And because a lot of times in recent Vikings history, I've been excited about a signing to see a partnership, and then you realize that they signed Yannick Ngakoue because Daniil was really going to be out for longer, or
sure. Yeah,
I'm worried that this signing just means Bradbury's further from coming back than we think.
Yeah, I mean, I think if he was further away, I don't know why they just wouldn't place him on IR and be out 4 games. Quit wasting a roster spot. My second question is, which of those 3 is going to play center? Because I don't think any of them have experience there.
Yeah, I forget who it was. I think someone was maybe taking reps in the offseason.
Is Darisaw back for sure? Would Cleveland move over to left tackle if Darisaw's out for a few weeks? I don't know. Could be a mess, guys. Could be a real mess.
They'll play Brandel there before they play Cleveland at left tackle, I bet.
Cleveland used to be a tackle. But...
yeah. The more you shuffle things, the more you need depth. And so they could have been like, well, we're not sure if we're putting Bradbury on the IR yet, but we're not sure when he's going to come back. Darisaw's nicked up. Ole's out.
What's the Chargers defense like? Is that a good one to transition into a new line, or is that a problem?
For an interior offensive line, this is a pretty good matchup. It's more of a struggle for our tackles because they got Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, or Khalil Mack's on the down half of his career, but I mean, they still have quite a bit of talent on that defense. They got a pretty good linebacking core, Derwin James. So We'll get into that more on Friday or Thursday, probably.
Yeah, we'll get into that one next. I'm curious, guys. So we've watched 2 games. We watched the Lions lose yesterday. We watched the Bears lose yesterday. The Bears look bad. Justin Fields looked bad. We watched the Packers give up a big lead and choke yesterday. What's your level of optimism in the NFC North? And then who's winning the North now that you've had 2 games to kind of have your eyes watch these teams play? Goose, who's winning the North?
I think the Vikings take it. That's their path to the playoffs. And
What's the record got to be to win the North?
I mean, I think you get in with. There's a real chance you win the North with 9 wins. I think
Wow.
I think it'll be more than that by the end of the season still. But as far as what I think the Vikings can come away with, but I think 9 wins would do it.
So you think one team from the North makes the playoffs then, most likely, not 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Tanner, what do you say?
Which question first? Who's going to win the North?
Who's winning the North? What kind of record does that take?
I still think the Vikings are the best team in the NFC North. I still think they're going to win the North. But I think the Packers are going to give them a run for their money. And I do think that there will be 2 teams out of the NFC North that make the playoffs because I don't think the rest of the NFC is very good.
So
NFC
you're
South.
like 9, 10 wins, 10, 11, the top 2 teams. What do you think there?
Did you repeat that? My dog's barking again.
What do you think? Let's say it's the Packers, Vikings, 10, 11 type win teams, 9, 10. Okay.
10 wins to get in. And I think if a second team from the NFC North does make it in, they're going to be a 7 seed for sure. But
Like a 9 and 8 type thing.
I just think Detroit is still Detroit. I don't know what it is. I just don't feel like they're ever going to be a successful organization, no matter how much talent they have or promise that they show once in a while. Chicago is actually further away, I think, from being successful than I thought. And if you go on Bears Twitter right now, that place is a nightmare. Justin Fields his career is like already over. It feels like they are completely giving up on him. And he shows he just looks defeated every time he goes to the sideline. Like usually you see quarterbacks kind of talking to their receivers, their tight ends, their offensive line. Like if he throws a pick or something like, hey, that's on me. I'll get you guys back, or trying to pump up your guys. Justin Fields throws a pick or a fumble or something. He goes to the bench and he just like sits by himself and he just looks like he hates his life. His post game pressers are super depressing, and he almost looks like he's like looking to place blame on other people as opposed to just having some accountability. So I could see the Bears getting ready to draft another QB again next year. Like they're gonna have to start fresh. So they look like one of the worst teams in the league. So
I was going to say, I don't think going to Chicago seems near as scary as it may have when we were going through the schedule. We thought maybe the Bears might be a little bit better. I don't think the Chiefs game seems nearly as difficult as the Niners one, for instance. I think that's probably the hardest home game on the schedule now. And then, just in general, like if we had to go back to Philadelphia sometime, say in the playoffs, if that were ever to happen, doesn't seem as overwhelming as it would have before the season started. So it's funny how 2 weeks in, everything changes. Maybe the Bucs are actually going to be a pretty decent team with their receivers and their defense, and Baker playing halfway decent. The Bengals now look like a kind of a mess to start the season. So it's crazy how we know every year things are going to flip upside down, but we never really think it's going to happen until a couple weeks into the season. So
I think it's mostly schedule related, but I was just looking. The NFC South currently has 3 undefeated teams, which is wild.
Yeah, Saints defense looked pretty good tonight. That Carolina game looks like there's no reason we should lose that game. I don't know.
No, we're in real trouble there.
All right. Well, there we have it. Any closing thoughts for tonight's episode? Else we'll come back later this week and we'll preview week 3 against the Chargers at home. So, Tanner, what do you got?
I want to see one more free agent signing.
Defensive line?
Yeah. Did you hear me talking through the wall today, Brent, or what?
I sometimes do hear you mumbling, and I don't know if it's Vikings related or if rates just went up again. I can never tell. So
it's a former Vikings killer.
I would love to see the Vikings sign Akeem Hicks.
Yeah, I could get on
I
board
think
with that.
that's an older vet. He's like in his mid-30s. That's still super productive. He eats space. He's strong. Our run game sucks. Dean Lowry's a turd, like a literal turd. Like he should never see the field.
Okay.
And I would really like to see them sign him to like a $3-4 million deal. And I mean, I think he could, have a
Could
shot
play.
to play. Yeah, you'd be a starter instantly and has a chance to compete for a playoff spot on the back half of his career. So
If you address the interior, the defensive line, stop the run, do you feel a lot better about this team going forward? Would that elevate you from a 6 to maybe like a 6.5, 7?
yeah, I'd probably be in that 7 range.
Okay.
I Flores does make me a little nervous. It seems like he's so like focused on like getting to the QB, like sending heat, which I do like because it makes games super exciting to see QBs like running after their life. But Goose and I were talking about it earlier today too. Like we saw a clip on Twitter. I saw a clip on Twitter, post game from Thursday's game against the Eagles, where we had a 6-man front and a shotgun formation against the Eagles, and we had one guy in that 6-man front that was over 300 pounds. So it's like, people are going to run it down your throats if you're just going to throw little dudes up in the box. So
Yeah.
something's got to change there if they want to stay competitive.
Good stuff, Goose. Anything to close us out?
I don't think so. Ready for the game on Sunday.
He's ready to
Long
go.
wait
He's
after
ready
those
to
Thursday night games.
elevate to a 8.5 here after the next couple weeks. Goose is going to be talking Super Bowl. So
Oh, for sure.
let's just get a win. Then we can reassess where we're at and get this O-line figured out and figure out how to stop the run. Right. So, all right, guys, there you have it. If you've not yet subscribed, hit subscribe. If you have any other Viking fans that you would like to listen in as well, share the page with them. And we'll be back again here in a few days. Have a great week, everybody.